Navarro.
We have Christy over here.
Hello.
Good. To introduce 1 Million Cups, we have a short 30-second promo video. So we're going to press play and everybody watch, and then we'll get started.
1 Million Cups is a weekly educational program developed by the Kauffman Foundation. Over the years, we've added more cities. Creates a great energy here to see what's happening across the country. Challenge, I should still go out and try to do it.
It fast forward, but we can rewind it.
1 Million Cups is a weekly educational program developed by the Kauffman Foundation. Over the years, we've added more cities. Creates a great energy here to see what's happening across the country. What I've learned from other entrepreneurs is very, very valuable. Sitting in a room with other people that have ideas too, it helps people to leave thinking, you know what, my idea is worth something. It's worth pursuing. It's worth going after it. Even if it looks like a challenge, I should still go out and try to do it.
All right, so we can't do this without our wonderful sponsors. So we want to thank Houndstooth Coffee for keeping us caffeinated, and Her2 for the treats every week. So let's give them a round of applause. And just a reminder, we are very active on social media. So follow along on Twitter at 1 Million Cups DAL, and the hashtag is 1MCDAL.
So we have Justin with Fridgely here, and Skylar with Startup Academy, and Justin with Fridgely will go first. We have a tradition here at the deck of 1 Million Cups that any presenter that comes up, you all get up and give them a warm round of applause. So let's go ahead and do that and welcome Justin.
Good morning, everybody. Does it work? There we go. My name is Justin Eller. I'm the creator of Fridgely. Basically, what we do is we make an app that helps you waste less food and save more money in the process. So this is my refrigerator, or at least this is what it looked like a year ago when I was living in the dorm on my college campus and had 3 roommates. What you'll notice is that it looks absolutely terrible. But what you don't see is the fact that behind everything in front, there's months of expired food in the back that we made, forgot about. There's milk we bought that we just let expire. And this is actually what a lot of people's refrigerators look like. Nobody has the pristine refrigerators that you see in TVs and movies. They all have refrigerators with expired food, and this is a problem that's actually a lot larger than you would think. It turns out that the average family of 4 wastes 25% of their food. So that's basically a quarter of the food you buy that you are throwing away and not using. And that actually turns into $1,400 a year for those families. When you think about the fact that there's 115 million households in the US, that is a lot of wasted food and a lot of wasted money. The other problem with this is that we're also just throwing this food into landfills and it's creating waste. This is food that we could be using for better purposes, and we could be doing a lot better stuff with it. So what we've done is we've actually created an app that tells you when your food is going to expire so that you can use it before it does. The way we do this is you type in the name of the item, the expiration date, and then Fridgely will let you know when things are going to expire. We send you intelligent notifications when those things are going to expire so that you know to eat the food. So when you are at work and trying to decide whether or not I'm going to go out and eat fast food or eat the food that I made a couple of nights ago, Fridgely will remind you and tell you that you have food that's going to expire soon so that you can use it, thus saving more money and not throwing away nearly as much food. And on top of that, to incentivize users, we actually have recipes built in. Since we have all of the things that you have in your fridge and your pantry, we can actually show you recipes based upon the food that you already have. Thus even more encouraging you to use the food that you have. So our partner audience is mainly middle-class families. This is mostly because we just have people who have enough food in the fridge that it kind of becomes a problem. For low-income families, throwing away food is not really that big of a problem because they have to use whatever they can get. For high-income families, most of them honestly wouldn't care less if they throw away food. But for middle-class families, you have 2 to 3 kids and are buying food all the time. Food waste is a very large problem for them. But on top of that, we also have opportunities to work with food banks, grocery stores, restaurants, because they all have food that they don't want to have to throw away. We have some enterprise solutions that we're working on right now to track large databases of food so that they can make sure that they are keeping track of their food and not having to throw any of it out. You'd be amazed at how often I go to places like Target and Kroger and buy something and then get it home and realize that the thing I bought was expired. Just last week I was at Target and bought some bacon and got it home and realized that it expired 2 days before I actually bought it. And had they been using a system that they could have tracked their inventory and known when it was going to expire, I wouldn't have had to go through the hassle of having to go back and deal with that whole process. So one of the interesting things about us is that we're constantly learning. We're doing a lot to talk to all of our users and figure out exactly what it is they want. It turns out that everyone we've talked to really loves the idea, but they all want slightly different things out of it. Because of that, we're helping cater the process and actually letting people customize their experience to meet their needs. We're also doing some really interesting things with the data that we're collecting. Since we basically have a database of all the food that you buy and know when it expires, we can actually do some analytical research to figure out when it is foods actually do expire. So that way, when we have 15,000 users come in and type in milk, we can actually see that the average expiration date from purchase is around 8 days. This allows us to then autofill in the expiration date when people type in milk and make the process a lot faster. We can also work with some other companies, for example, like Eat by Date, which have information that talks about when food actually expires. It ends up that the American culture says that foods expire a lot earlier than they do, mainly for liability reasons, but it turns out that much food lasts a lot longer than you would actually expect. We're going to start rolling this information into our apps to educate users and tell them that that milk may actually last a day or two longer than you expected. So we launched in the middle of July, and since then we've amassed about 15,000 users. We've never done any real marketing campaigns. Most of our users have pretty much come from word of mouth, which is really great. I'd like to think we're kind of still in a beta phase, but we've got enough users now and our product's large enough to where that's not the truth anymore. So a little stuff about me. I'm the only member of our team, actually. I keep saying we, but it's actually just me. So I am a senior computer science major at UT Dallas. I'll be graduating in May. When I'm not out making apps, I'm actually on the baseball team. So after this, I have to actually head to practice, which is pretty great. I'm also the president and CEO of a company called JumpSpace Apps. We make apps for small to medium-sized companies, and that's pretty much how I know how to actually make apps. So that's pretty much it. So the important thing about Fridgely is that we make an app that helps you waste less food, save more money, and let you know when your food's going to expire so that you can use it before it does. Thank you.
We're going to open up to Q&A, and we are filming today's presentations, so we will have a mic going around to each person for their questions.
How'd you get up to 15,000 users?
So a lot of it, it's interestingly enough, most of it actually came all from one day, which was a really interesting and scary day when I woke up and looked at the download numbers and saw 13,000 new users on one day. That's because a website actually picked us up and thought we were really cool and promoted us, which was interesting because I actually ended up getting users from all over the world. I had users in Asia, Europe. It was crazy. But a lot of those users have actually stayed around, which is really great. But other than that, pretty much the other 3,000 to 4,000 users have all come from just word of mouth and people telling each other they like it.
How do you plan to generate revenue from the app?
So right now the app is a $1.99 download. So we're generating money on every user that we get. But then on top of that, we're also working on a system where people can share their lists between different users. So that way, like a husband and father could share their list and have basically the same list on their phones. For something like that, we're planning on having a monthly fee, basically pro users. And then for our enterprise system that we're currently building out, we're going to charge basically a monthly fee per the amount of users that the people have. So that a small restaurant with 3 or 4 employees would pay a small amount, but a very large restaurant with a lot of employees would pay more.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the user experience? I'm not really sure how it works.
Okay, yeah, so basically the way it works is when you open it up, you see a screen called Spaces. Spaces are places for you to actually organize your food. It turns out that there isn't just one place people have food. We have refrigerators. A lot of us have 2 refrigerators. We have pantries. We have hidden snack drawers that we keep from our kids with our favorite snacks. So you go into Spaces. So for me, this is my fridge and my pantry. So I'll go into fridge, and then from there I can actually click the add button and add an item. That asks you to type in the name and the expiration date of the item. So once we have that, you hit enter, we're done. And then Fridgely does things in the background to tell you when things are going to expire. So we actually have custom notifications set up so that you can set the time of day you want to be notified. So for example, for me, I have it set up so that at 4 o'clock, Fridgely tells me what's going to expire. That way I can see, oh, the spaghetti I made 2 nights ago, I should go ahead and eat that tonight rather than going out and eating something else.
Love the idea, but my question is, it goes back to the workflow. As your target demographic, a middle-class family with children, when I come home with a receipt that's as tall as I am, the process seems really cumbersome. Have you considered using OCR or tying into sort of the grocery chains back into POS?
Yeah, so this is by far our largest problem is what you're talking about, basically getting people to enter in all of their data. That's a really difficult problem to solve. We've talked with a couple of grocery stores, and we've talked about the feasibility of basically getting it so that your receipt can automatically go into Fridgely. The problem with that is we still don't really know the actual expiration dates of items. In one of the earlier versions of the app, we actually had barcode scanning, so you could scan the barcode of an item. But a lot of our users expected the barcodes to also give us expiration dates. Unfortunately, that's just not something that barcodes can currently do. We've discussed about doing OCR on receipts, but then at the same point, you're going to have to go in and type the expiration date of all the items. Once we have a couple more users and a lot more larger data set in which we can say that cereal lasts an average of 30 days, bananas last an average of 4 days, something along those lines, we can enter in those expiration dates for you automatically. And that's our ultimate goal, is to get to the point where all you have to type in is the name or use some sort of OCR system to get the names of your items so that you don't have to type in the expiration date. That way it's a lot more hands-off.
Have you seen actual behavior changes from your customers at the back end of this? So when they have expirations coming up, they're actually changing their meal plans and their recipes to make use of this?
Yeah, so one of the most interesting things I've noticed is that through the first 2 weeks of a user's lifespan, they are letting an average, I think it's 3.6 items get to expiration, which means that we've now hit the date when that thing is expired. But after those 2 weeks, they're getting down to an average of 1.2 items. So either it's actually working really well for them, or they're just not entering in things that they think are going to expire. One of those 2 things are happening. I'd like to think it's the first one. We're also seeing users actually really love the recipe side of things. It turns out that people really like trying out new recipes they've never heard of. And something that just spits out recipes and tells them, oh, you can make this, they're really enjoying. A lot of us, when we go on to Food Network or something along those lines, we don't know where to begin. We're like, I have some chicken, and then we go into chicken dishes, and then we see 50,000 chicken dishes, and that's too much, and then you have to go out and buy the 2 more ingredients that you have. But the fact that this tells you what things you can already make with your food, people are really enjoying it.
I just wanted to recommend that you go ahead and build a database of hard cheese, soft cheese, milk, vegetables, and put some parameters rather than waiting till you get more customers. I think you'll get much better adoption, even if it's close. So to build those out.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like we're trying to figure out how to. I'm trying to figure out how I'm trying to do that in a way where people don't get confused. The problem I think I'm concerned about is that if someone types in milk and then we auto move to a date, but that date's 1 or 2 days off, I'm afraid the users might be like, oh, well, that's not my expiration date. So I have to kind of teach users that I'm guesstimating in a way, which is actually something that I think that if I tell people I'm doing that, they'll be a lot more open to knowing that. But it's definitely something I really want to do, and that's actually like my next phase is building that out. Especially because that's what would make my product worth more than any other product. It's like, this is the fact that you only have to type in a name and then it's done. You don't have to do anything else.
Does the app
handle, not like you talked about OCRs, but does it handle like generic things like milk? No matter where you get milk, who cares about the brand name of milk? It's milk. And does it handle state by state nuances? Like on Planet Money the other day, they were talking about a strange Montana law where all milk produced has to have an expiration date of 12 days, even though milk can generally last, if it's pasteurized and homogenized, 21 days. Does it handle those kinds of local nuances?
Well, as we haven't currently built that process that does the predictive analysis yet for the users, so technically not yet. Edge cases like that are definitely going to mess me up though, because if I see that the average expiration date for milk is 7-8 days for purchase, but then in Montana it's actually 12 or something along those lines, people in Montana are going to get messed up.
So it's not so much the average, it's a state law that says you can't put an expiration date beyond 12 days on milk, even though typically milk can last beyond 12 days. So the law is saying this in one state versus X in another state.
Yeah, so that's things like that are going to be a little bit difficult to handle. I actually can't think off the top of my head how I would do that in a really good way, besides knowing what state the user's in and then having a database of food regulatory laws to look back on. But yeah, things like that's the problem is in America especially, like we put expiration dates on food that are way before they're actually expiring. I would much rather show people when your food's actually going to go bad than what the label says, because I think that is also part of the problem. I think we are the nation that looks at the fact that the eggs say sell by February 4th, and we think that means eat by February 4th, but in fact they last another week. I'd really like to fix that problem too.
Don't you get exposed to a lot of liability if someone like goes by your date and then their kid gets sick?
So the question was, am I exposed to liability if I tell someone that their food hasn't expired yet, but it actually has and it makes their kid sick? Potentially, yes. The difference though about it is it's still, like I'm saying, like they have to enter the expiration date. So right now they have to determine when they think it's okay. And all of my users are still going to be doing the sniff test that we all do when we open up food in our fridge anyways. So it's okay. If somebody opens the food and they see that it smells terrible or the milk is now actually solid, they're not going to still drink it.
Well, so the value add that you really have is a reminder that the food is there, not the accuracy of the expiration dates. It's having that consolidated in one location. But my question is on the enterprise side, how do you deal with, so as a product is packaged and is placed for display, we all know that you can go and dig through the rack of milk and you go all the way to the back, you're going to get the most recent delivery with a different expiration date. How on the enterprise side are you going to handle sort of the distribution of the product on display?
So one of the things we've talked about doing is actually having smarter barcodes. Actually going into the enterprise side of things is a significantly larger task. One of the things we talked about having is RFID tags beneath the barcodes, so that way we can know what's on the shelf and when things are going to expire. Because the problem right now is in a grocery store there is 100 gallons of milk on the shelf, and you can't. It's really difficult for you to know that this one expires this one expires that day, and when it gets checked out. That's the really problem, is knowing when somebody actually bought that milk. But if we use RFID tags beneath the barcodes, we can actually have RFID scanners built in around the grocery store that monitor what is currently there, so that they can see, this one expires on this day and it's still here, let's go ahead and get rid of it. The problem is we have to have, basically, for a grocery store, we'd have to have real-time monitoring of everything they have in their store. And that's a significantly larger overhaul.
I just had a question regarding, obviously, as you talk about all the technological advances that can happen, what is your strategy against pretty much every manufacturer in the world making smart grids? The closer you come to achieving your goal, the easier it is for smart grids to do the exact same thing but be integrated as a feature. Do you have a defense against that? And have you talked to any manufacturers about potentially using your app as the backbone to one of their smart systems?
Yeah, so we've actually, we've talked to a Samsung rep a little bit when we went out and kind of looked at everything at CES. The interesting thing about it is Samsung's the only one currently doing anything that cares at all about the food you actually have in your fridge. They came out with a new model this year that actually has cameras in your fridge, so that when you're in the grocery store, you can basically VPN almost into your fridge and see a live feed of what you have in there. The problem with that is you still don't know anything about the actual food. We've talked about ways to, have the fridge know what you have in there. Some image recognition would be really awesome to be able to see that you have, these apples, and we know you put them in there in this date, and it'll probably expire by that date. The problem is we'd have to have significantly better image recognition. We'd have to have a larger database of knowing, how quickly foods expire. It's a difficult problem, but it's one of those things where I really want to get to the point to where Fridgely is good enough to the point to where fridge manufacturers want to use it instead. But also, I still don't see the smart fridge thing ever becoming mainstream. I just don't think any of us have the money to go out and buy a $10,000 refrigerator, and most of the ones they're currently selling are significantly more than that even.
Having done a lot of marketing in the past, I think that your real opportunity is on the enterprise side, because you're looking at huge volumes. If someone like McDonald's Corp could look at 10,000 restaurants and be able to assess inventory and when it was going to go bad, rather than the one-offs, I think that they could look at that and go, oh my gosh, you could save us, $100 million every quarter. So it's just something to think about. But do you think that you will be at a place at some point that you advise people exactly the temperature to set a fridge, organic versus regular apples, for example, or is it just going to be, with certain food items, you might just have to wing it?
Yeah, I would love to get to the point where I'm actually teaching people as opposed to just telling them. Because you're right, organic and non-organic foods behave completely differently in the fridge. And I'd like to actually tell people about that. It's one of those things where I have to basically learn that before I can tell people, and that's the hard part. There's the great company Eat by Date, which is kind of doing it, but right now they just have walls of paragraphs when you look up milk that explain how milk goes bad, and right now it's just a little bit too much information for the average consumer to read. But if I can actually put together a team to figure out information like that, I would love to put that in.
You said you spoke with a few different restaurants, and who have you spoke with on the restaurant side, enterprise side, for managing, and what are they currently doing to manage?
So the ones I've talked to are mainly local restaurants, which have maybe 1 or 2 locations. It happens to be that those are the restaurants near campus that I enjoy going to and kind of know the owner a little bit because I go there more than I probably should be. So they've been open to talking to me, but they pretty much said that we don't do anything, which actually kind of scares me. It's a little bit scary knowing that the pizza I'm eating, the owner doesn't actually know when he bought that cheese. But he tells me that all of it's fresh and good. But it'd be great to know that he actually understood when that stuff is going to expire. The big thing about it though is that a lot of them say that they almost have too much inventory for them to track. So that's a situation where we would definitely have to use something like OCR for them to quickly be able to take if they could take a picture, for example, of their inventory fridge and everything got imported all at once, that would be great. It would be difficult to do, obviously, but it's something that we could definitely do.
Hey, so I came in a little bit late, but I think I totally understand now. Speaking of taking a picture of the food in those larger instances, have you considered going into any sort of Internet of Things technology, building a small prototype of something you can actually put in the fridge to maybe take those photos for you? And I know Samsung has built it into the fridge, but maybe an opportunity here is to build a small device that is more feasible, just because I kind of agree with what some of the other people are saying is inputting all of that data is going to be a huge wall barrier for anybody, because I know when I get home from the grocery store, I don't want to be putting stuff into my phone. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. So when we were thinking around with the RFID technology, we actually built a really small prototype that could pretty much recognize, whether or not the item with RFID was close to it or not, which basically is the most simple form of RFID technology you can have. But building out something like a camera that could look into your fridge, we could definitely do. The problem is going to be getting some sort of power source in your fridge that works and is constantly monitoring. Obviously, I would love to build out pretty much what Samsung has built out in a better way, and so that anyone can put it in their fridge, so it doesn't have to be some $10,000 smart fridge. So it's getting into something that does hardware next, I think, is really important for us, especially because we've kind of locked down the user experience on the app side, but the biggest hurdle for us is getting people to actually enter in all of their data incredibly fast.
So one other idea that I just kind of popped into my head, have you considered maybe adding in functionality like a grocery list as part of what you're doing? So before I go to the grocery store, I go and add in my food that I'm planning on purchasing, and then when I put it in, I know that, okay, that day I purchased these things. To me, that reduces the that initial thing, and then I can like check off as I eat, maybe as part of that. I don't know if that's feasible.
So we actually talked to our users, and a lot of them, like we've thought of that and talked to our users about it, and they said, well, I already use this app to manage all of my shopping lists. So we would have to basically build out something that is better than all of the other shopping lists for them to use ours instead. It might be something that I end up just building out and seeing if people actually want to use it. It's really hard to get good feedback from people and just say, yeah, would you use this or would you not use this? I kind of have to build it out and try it to see if anybody actually would want to use it. But yes, that would definitely speed up the process as well.
It's clear from this setting, as well as in your presentation, you mentioned that there's a lot of people that want slightly different versions of what you're doing. So it's clear that people are taking you in every direction possible. So let's talk about what resources you can use, including the DEC, other resources to help you formulate the true strategy for the marketplace you should be approaching, the biggest marketplace, and how you're going to build out the team to actually get to the end goal, which of course is commercialization.
So the big thing is I need to basically get smarter at who it is I'm talking to. Right now I'm talking to pretty much anybody I think will be a user, but what's going to be important for me is kind of, I guess, redefining what my best user is actually going to be and talking to people who meet those demographics. Figuring out what it is they want, and then kind of prioritizing what it is that I think people are going to want the most, what's actually possible to build. And on the enterprise side of things, I just need to talk to a wider range of companies and figure out what the problems are that somebody like McDonald's has, as opposed to your mom and pop pizza store. And then from there, once I have a list of these are the things I have to build, I can increase my team, basically build those things out, and then learn to see if people are actually wanting to use those. What's important for me is getting a list of the 10 things people really, really want this to do, building out the top 5, and then maybe 2 or 3 of those things don't actually work, and doing the next ones and seeing if those work.
All right, and now we have Skylar from Startup Academy. So everyone please stand up and give a big round of applause. Welcome, Skylar.
So the Startup Academy is a student-led effort to create and educate the entrepreneurs of the future. And so the school looks like a normal not a normal high school, it's a high school meets incubator, it's awesome. So everything is done through the student. The student gets to decide what they want to do. So we're going to help them discover their passions, what they want to do when they're older, and that may be starting a nonprofit, it could be developing an app, it could be opening a business, a service, restaurant, anything. And we're going to help the student do that. So imagine you have your business or product or nonprofit, etc. You have that idea in 9th grade, and instead of being stuck in a school building for 9 hours, you now have the freedom to pursue it with no risk. You don't have to worry about money, you don't have to worry about security, you don't have to worry about your families because you're a kid, right? So the idea here is that we can actually take a step back and focus on what the kids want, what they want to do. We're going to help them do that. So we're going to have the kids craft business plans. We're going to have them apply for loans, for small business loan. We're going to connect them with investors, angel investors. We're going to show them how to create a marketing plan, how to take risks, how to go to things like this and present their products and say, hey, this is an idea that I have, I want support from it. And so I'm entering this in the XQ Super School Challenge, and along with it, many pages of sites I've sourced, our opinions, what we think the school should be, school mission and culture, networks and partnerships, etc. But all that doesn't really mean anything unless my community wants it. And so why I'm here is I want the community to get behind me and what I'm doing. I want you to say, I want this in my community, I want my kid to go here, I would have wanted to go here, this is great for us. We're going to teach kids how to be small business owners. They don't have to follow the same path that everyone's followed for over 100 years. You don't have to graduate high school, go to college, go to graduate school, and be stuck in the same job for 20 years. We're seeing people are having second careers, third careers, even fourth careers in their life, and we need to prepare them for that. So I actually want everyone to get out their phones, computers, tablets, whatever, and I want you to go to this website. And here is a form that I want you to fill out endorsing us, saying, I want this, I think this is cool. Also, leave a comment for us. We're about 2 weeks away from submitting our final proposal, but we're always looking for new ideas and what we can add to it. Below is my email for this, so you can send us emails asking, hey, can you send me a copy of the proposal? Hey, I want to be on your team. Hey, I know this person who would be really interested in, teaching or doing something. We just want engagement and we want to get it out there. I really think that we could change our entire high school education system in the next 5 years.
Time.
Question and
That was a
answers.
good Let's give her a round of applause. I'm probably breaking a 1 million cups rule, but I really enjoyed the presentation and I'd like you to finish it. What was the last thing that you were going to say?
Oh, okay. I was going to say, we can only change the high school system if we can get our community behind it, and if we can do that, they'll see that there's a need for it, and we can have change.
I just want to say, I think your personality is absolutely infectious. And if anybody's going to do something like this, I truly think that you possibly can. You clearly have a passion for this, and that is fantastic. And I wish you the very, very best of what you're trying to do. One thing I want you to be very aware of, and you touched on this twice. Once you said I'm 17 years old, and that's an important thing to remember. And secondly, you talked about people in second and third careers and things like that. What you're developing here is a very specific track. It is one way to go. And as somebody who's been through second and third careers, every time I've done this, it's involved education again, and re-education and more education. And so this is a great first step. It's a really cool idea. I hope that you get some traction with this. But as you map this out, think about that next step. Where does somebody who goes from here, where do they go from there? Because as close as you are at 17, most 17-year-olds don't exactly know what they're going to do with the rest of their lives. So.
Yeah, and while we've been planning this, we've thought about that, and one of the big things that students that go here will learn is those soft skills. They're going to learn technical skills, of course, but the thing we really want to focus on is those soft skills, which are like communication, collaboration, responsibility, taking risks and different things like that. And like when you were talking about, it sets a student up for a certain path. It does, but it also teaches the student that you're not stuck in the same place you are. You can always recreate, you can always re-innovate it. So that's something that we're definitely thinking about.
Hey, a good job.
Oh, closer.
really good job. I just wanted to touch on what you said. I just graduated from university and I minored in entrepreneurship, majored in engineering, and I did like a bunch of business idea competitions. One place where you could really solidify your idea, really solidify your presentation when you submit it, is having surveys. Conduct surveys, to parents who have kids in like a certain age group, and that way investors know that their risk is reduced when they see customers really want to do it. Like, do students want to go into that school? Do parents want to put their children into that school? That could really solidify your stuff. And you have 2 weeks, you can definitely do it. And even if someone comes with a better plan, but they haven't showed how they're mitigating the risk, you guys can definitely win. So good luck.
Thank you. And we've actually put out a few surveys in our community to some fellow teachers, some teachers, some students, and a few parents, but we're definitely continuing that, yeah.
Please raise your hand up high and so that Edna can see you.
First of all, I want to say excellent presentation. This is one of my passions. I have 2 teens, and I've been trying to get entrepreneurship in the schools since they were young, and I have a couple of programs, so you've taken it a step further. And I was just wondering, I used to contract with TEA, so I'm kind of familiar with the education system. Have you contacted the regional educational service centers like Region 10 and Region 11, where ideas like this, they're looking for, you have a lot of educators who are thinking outside the box and really want to change education?
We haven't contacted them specifically. We've been talking with some school board members who are on our team who want this. Also, the district that I'm in, they did like a kind of a panel, I guess, a few years ago, what the community wanted in their schools, and entrepreneurship definitely showed up there. So that's kind of where we were engaging that from, but we'll definitely look into those people for some advice.
Any more questions?
Thank you, everyone.
All right, and then if you have not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel or our newsletter, you can do so on our Facebook, facebook.com/1MCDAO. And if you're interested in sponsoring or presenting any 1 Million Cups program in the future, you can email us at dallas@1millioncups.com. And then we also open the stage up for people to talk about upcoming events. We did hear news that there's going to be a new entrepreneur hub in Denton. The city of Denton will be partnering with the Dallas Entrepreneur Center. So that will be opening up this summer. I believe it's called Stoke. So, yep. So if anyone else has anything to say, we'd love to pass the mic on. But other than that, thank you so much for joining us, and we'd love to see you next week. Do you have something? Fiona has something for us?
Thank you very much. Hi, I'm Fiona Schlachter. 2 things. I work with Health Wildcatters. We do a monthly forum for health innovators. If you would like to come and have breakfast on February 25th, 7:30 a.m. at Health Wildcatters, just down the street. And Paul Hirschman will be talking about selling his company for $80 million right now, so that's good. The other thing is House of Genius. It's a monthly forum for entrepreneurs who have launched. If you have a business problem that you want some help with, these are folks who are there to help you. They come from all different business backgrounds. Our next session is next week on the 11th, so come see me afterwards. Thank you for the opportunity.
Hey, I'm David Forrest. I run the Video Game Coffee Club up in Plano. And a lot of people down here are like, oh man, that's Plano. I don't want to go to Plano. And I'm like, well, guess what? I'm holding an event down here for all of you, so you can come. So February 25th is a Thursday. We've done this twice before now, but we're doing a throwback Thursday. We'll have a bunch of retro consoles, N64, Super Nintendo. We had a 3DO last time, which was crazy. But if you like gaming, or you remember gaming at one point in time, and you want to come meet people and have a fun, interactive way to mingle and mix and everything like that, February 25th at Dallas Fort Worth, which is over 211 North Irvay. We'll be there around like 6:37ish until 9:30. Come hang out. If you want more information, go to vgocc.com. Stands for the Video Game Open Coffee Club. But thanks, guys.
Anyone? Yep. Yes, we have a couple more.
Hi, everybody. I'm Max Bell. I'm a mentor for the Dalsha Makers Club. I don't need the mic, thanks. We have 3 tracks. We have computing, art, and robotics. And I'm trying to grow it on the volunteer side. I need evangelists, and I also am looking for more students trying to promote it. Right now we have about 30 students regularly. And one track, the one I teach, we use the Raspberry Pi to teach them about computing. This is the Pi Zero. And I'm going to do a bunch of retro games demos on this thing. I actually use this for work too, and impress my enterprise clients that they can get their software running on something that's $50. But the point of the Dallas Makers Club is to give kids an opportunity for project-based learning from 8 to 18 at the library, public place, community supported, totally free, totally affordable, sustainable tools. And when I teach them something, I teach them C or Bash Shell, because it worked 30 years ago, it's going to work 30 years from now, and it's industrial strength skills, right? So it's all about sustainable skills. But if they're into art, they make zines, and they don't use computers at all for that. They might use a copier. That's the most advanced thing they do there. We're trying to stick to the old 80s zine aesthetic for that one. Anyway, if you guys want to promote it, I have some flyers. Anybody that has children that might be interested, like I said, totally free, every first and third Saturday. So there's one this Saturday, 8 a.m. at the Eric Johnson Library on the 5th floor, 8 to 12. Thanks, everybody.
Just a reminder, we are filming. Everyone needs to use the mic.
On February 26th to the 28th, there'll be a startup weekend. It's themed after the water issue in Flint, Michigan. So it's called Fight for Flint. It'll be a great opportunity to come out and meet others in the startup community. We're trying to just solve that problem. There's also rumors that there could be similar issues going on in Texas. So the issue could be quite a bit bigger than we're aware. So February 26th to the 28th, startup weekend, Fight for Flint.
Thank you, everybody. Please stay in at work.